What's up, adventurers? This is Phil from Adventurous Life Outdoors, and today I'm going to talk to you about my Altoids Tin Survival Kit. Now this thing looks a little beefy compared to some of what I've seen, but I've done a lot of research and a lot of actual trail use on this little guy right here, and it's been pretty good. So I'm going to show you the benefits of my experimentation, and hopefully when you're building your own Altoids survival kit, you see the advantages and disadvantages to some of the stuff that I've done and some of the things that others have done. So let's get started. Alright, so to begin with, you can see that my Altoids tin is just a normal Altoids, size tin, but it's wrapped in a couple of things. So the first thing I've got here, just to have, a rubber band to use for something, is this thing that I found. I'm not really sure what this is, but it's cool, and I found it, and I kept it, and it's come in handy a couple of times for hanging stuff up, fastening things up. It's basically a rubber band that's tied around this little doohickey thing. I'm not really sure what it is. It looks kind of like two golf tees glued together, even though it's not, but it's really cool, and it's really good for tying stuff up. It's a nice, strong, resistant rubber band, so it's not going to break easily, and it hasn't degraded over the years. Most rubber bands will get, they'll lose elasticity and they'll get brittle and break. This one hasn't. This one's lasted me a good while. So if you find one of these, you find these wherever they're found, I'm not really actually even sure what it is, pick a couple up because they're pretty awesome. The second thing about my Altoids Survival Tin is that it is wrapped in 10 feet of paracord. Now, the reason I do this is because it helps keep everything in, but also it kind of rounds off the shape a little bit, which makes it easier to get it in and out of my pocket. It also keeps the cord coiled so that as you unravel it, everything is nice and tight all the way around, and you have exactly 10 feet that you can use. Once it's all pulled off and uncoiled, it keeps your rope nice and tidy. That way it's not just a bundle that gets tangled up and all that jazz. You can use it for just about anything you can use paracord for, but the other reason that I've chosen this is because 550 paracord is something that I've used pretty much since I started getting out and doing anything in the woods. It's really, really good as far as weight distribution, water resistance, and its resistance to the sun and things like that, as far as you can leave it up for a long time, and it doesn't degrade very easily. But I was able to actually hang a tire swing using nothing but one strand of paracord on a camping trip when I was bored one time, and it actually worked out really well. So 550 is always the way to go. I normally don't recommend an army green or something that's easily lost, but since this is my only real big strip of cord for this kit, the green is fine. Now, as far as waterproofing the kit, I have a double layer of electrical tape that goes all the way around, sits nice and tight, and I also made sure that it covered the holes in the back. That's one fatal flaw that I did not do one time before I went out, and I discovered after making my way across the water that it was not actually watertight. So this is good because electrical tape is a type of tape that can be used multiple times. So once you pull this off, you can always go ahead and use it for something else. I do put a little tab on the end, which makes it easy to pull off, but I like to flatten that down as well so that you don't have to worry about it necessarily coming off at the wrong time. I like to also try and make sure that I keep this flat so that it doesn't get ruined. Here's my Altoids tin. Now inside I've got a couple of things. So let's check out what's in here. So for starters, I saw this idea and thought it was really, really great. This is my contact information for everybody that is important. So I've got my wife and parents on here, my doctor, insurance, AAA, poison control, local sheriff, roadside assistance, my insurance information, and also a taxi, just in case I need to get out of somewhere. I have redacted some of these numbers for you YouTubers, but that doesn't matter because I have to update this anyway. So I also put a small tab on the bottom here that's all of my information. So it's got stuff for in case I'm ever found, lost or anything like that. This is something that they can get a quick reference to, whatever information they might need for me, including medications, allergies, things like that. So this is a really cool idea. So I took that one for myself because I saw some other people doing that online. So let's start up here at the top. So the first thing that you see is a nice crisp $20 bill. The reason that this is in here is because I've seen a couple of other preppers and people like that putting quarters, you know, 4 quarters, $1, whatever, which I think is hilarious because if you think about being lost or needing help, 4 quarters isn't going to get you a whole lot more. It's not even going to get you a Snickers bar nowadays. But the coolest thing about $1 is that it's smaller than 4 quarters because it's very thin and can be folded up. And the best thing about $20 is that it's the same size as $1. So I get 20 times the amount of currency for, you know, a minute amount of space compared to trying to carry around 4 quarters. So I've got that in the top there, which is pretty easily accessible if in case you ever need emergency money or if you want to bribe somebody to give you a ride or something like that. So in the top here, I've got a couple of things. First of all, I've got some safety pins. Now, safety pins are good to have just in case you need them for, you know, small repairs, things like that. In case you need a needle that you can have some control to maybe dig out a splinter or something simple. You know, these are there, and that's always good to have. So I've got 3 of them just in case I lose a couple or if I need a couple. Something else in the top here is I have a striker for the matches that I've got in the bottom, so we'll talk about that in a little bit. I also have a thin strip of, it's basically like a monofilament, but it's not. It's a plastic thread, so it's not a fishing line, but it's a thin plastic thread and a sewing needle. Now the reason that I have that is because if for any reason my tarp were to tear, my tent were to tear, my clothing were to tear, or if you were to need to give yourself some stitches, normal cotton thread is not necessarily going to cut it. So this is a lot more weatherproof and waterproof and all that jazz. So I've got my sewing needle, and then I've also got the thin mono thread that, you know, is a little more versatile. Cut and go. Alright, and also in the top here I have a very tiny razor blade. I taped the inside so that the blade is safe, so when you're reaching in here you don't end up cutting yourself or anything like that. This is a small piece that comes off of a box cutter, and the reason that I like this is because it's a lot smaller than just about any of the other full-size razors that you could carry. Obviously I believe that you should have a blade on you anyway, but just in case you lose your blade or you need this for something a little more precision cutting, you've got this mostly as a backup, you know, but just in case you need it for something really small, then you've got that. Now the last thing we've got in the top other than the striker over here is 2 fishing hooks. I have 1 freshwater and 1 saltwater, and we'll talk about that in a little bit more depth here in a minute because I've got an emergency fishing kit in here too that we'll talk about. Obviously one of the bigger things you see right here is a lighter. Normally I carry a small Bic lighter, but for the emergency kit I like to have a bigger one just in case it's really hard to start a fire. I've taken off the child safety lock deal because it's really hard to light these things in cold weather or wetter conditions when you have that stupid thing on there. So I took it off. I'm not afraid of burning myself because, you know, I'm not a child all the time. Also inside of here is a couple of different things. Now, the first thing I'll pull out is right under here. These are my medications. Now I've got a lot of different meds in here, so bear with me, we'll do this quick. Ibuprofen, obviously a pain medication. Aspirin, obviously another pain medication. And towards the bottom I have Tylenol, which is a cold and flu. The reason that I have 3 separate ones is because Tylenol is acetaminophen, ibuprofen is different, and also aspirin is different. So you have 3 separate types of pain medications that do different things. Obviously aspirin is going to be a blood thinner, but I wouldn't take the Tylenol. I would actually opt for the ibuprofen or the aspirin before I did this, because this is not only 500 milligrams of acetaminophen, but it also has 2 other medications in it. One is to keep you from coughing and one is to clear up your sinuses. It works very, very well. So this is kind of saved for you get out in the woods or something and you discover, oh my gosh, I'm sick. You wake up the next morning with a clogged up nose and you just really don't feel like hiking out. This really helps with the pain and all that kind of stuff. 2 other things that you might run into. Allergy meds, so I've got myself some Benadryl here. These are all adult doses, and also an anti-diarrheal. you know, you might be thinking to yourself, well, why would you need that? Well, obviously, if you get sick on the trail, if you start getting dehydrated, the last thing you want to have is diarrhea, because then you're going to have a real big issue, you know, keeping anything down or in. So this really helps with that. In here, I've also got an emergency whistle. This is something that you can try and make contact, you know, with people coming by. You hear them on the trail, something like that. Blow this whistle. It's a nice loud screecher. Always something somebody should have. Here's the matches. Now these are 3 individual, what are they called? Waterproof matches. I've cut them down just a little bit because they were really long when I bought them. And then the strikers up here, so you can just get those going. They're not ignite on anything. That's why I have the striker included. Then down here we have the rest of our fishing kit. Now this is kind of neat. This is 25 feet of 50-pound braided Kevlar fishing line. The reason I do that is because I want to be able to set it and forget it. I don't want it to break. I don't want it to get stolen. I don't want it to get, you know, well, stolen by a fish. But you know what I mean. I don't want it to snap if I'm trying to pull in a big enough fish. I don't want it getting caught up on rocks and losing everything. I want to just have it and be able to use it and know it's there. I have 6 eyelet hooks, so you can put these through a stick and make yourself a nice little cane pole, and a little sinker just in case you need some current or whatever to kind of get it down there to where you think the fish are. That's already attached there, so this is ready and good to go. You just got to find yourself a stick, grab your hooks and your line, and hook everything up and go fishing. Something else on the medication is dehydration tablets, just in case you actually do end up getting dehydrated or you have you know, the beginning symptoms of it. I have 2 sets of 2 pills each, so you can actually take these. They're going to help you out just a little bit as far as, you know, trying to get some electrolytes in you. It's not a cure obviously for dehydration, but it helps replenish your electrolytes and get you going a little bit better. In this top corner here, I've got a couple of nails. Now these are pretty cool. These are 1 5/8 inch nails, pretty thick gauge. The reason I chose these is because I've seen some other videos where people do not have very thick nails. They basically have tacks. And I'm sorry, but I've tried using smaller nails, and 1, they're harder to drive in without bending them, breaking them, or losing them, and 2, they actually won't hold your pack or hold up your tent or your makeshift shelter or anything like that. So these are really nice and thick, they hold really well, and that's why they're in here. So a couple of nails that'll help hold up a tarp or a makeshift sort of deal that you may have. Now this is my emergency flashlight, and this is actually kind of cool. All this is 1 LED. And then also packed in here are 2 button cell batteries and a rare earth magnet. So if you take all this apart, and I always store it so that the batteries don't touch each other, because then they'll end up losing some of their power. But if you've seen these online, these are actually pretty cool. Most of the stuff's easily, readily available just about anywhere, any sort of electronic stores and things like that. All you have to do is take the button cell, slide the short end of the LED, which is the negative, over the negative side of the button cell, and the positive over the positive, and you get yourself a light, which is pretty awesome. Now this doesn't seem all that bright, but trust me, when it's dark, this thing is really bright. So there you go. It's enough to see what you're doing in the dark when you're out in the woods and there's really nothing helping you as far as moonlight or anything like that. I normally store it with 2 batteries and with the magnet for a couple of reasons. The magnet can simply be clipped right over the positive side, and now you don't have to worry so much about how you're holding your light. So now I can move the light around. I can also stick the light on top of anything magnetic, and now it's going to stay there, and I can go about doing whatever it is I'm doing. Something else to bear in mind is that there are 2 batteries so that you can get a lot of hours out of it. But if it's just so dark that you really want to see better, instead of using 1 battery, like this, you can actually stack them one on top of another. And now you've got a really bright LED light. Okay? And this actually helps a lot. Again, if you're out in the dark, I mean, this thing can cast a pretty decent light, whether it's 1 battery or 2. So just to show you that one more time, positive side up, long side is positive, negative side down, put them together, you got yourself a light. Okay? If you're going to do them in a series, You simply put the negative side of one battery on the positive side of the other battery, just like that. Stretch your light out just enough, not to really break it, but just to bend it enough that you can get it over the positive and the negative, and boom. Now you've got a super bright LED light, but it's going to kill your batteries twice as fast. And then again, you can take your rare earth magnet, slap it right there on the contact, and you've got yourself a miniature flashlight. Boom. One more tip that I highly recommend with the flashlight is using the electrical tape that you stored it with to simply hold it together. Then you can stick your magnet on it, and now you don't have to worry about it coming off the battery very easily at all. You can move it around, do whatever you need to with it, you can drop it, it's still going to have light. If you drop this thing without having it taped together, good luck in the dark. Tweezers, obviously, something that's always good to have in an EDC or survival kit, any of that kind of stuff. Just always have one of these around. I usually carry this as my first aid kit because there's a lot in here that's first aid. So even if you're not using it for survival per se, this kind of stuff for first aid is really good to have. Good set of tweezers, and of course we've always got band-aids. We got big ones, little ones, we got gigantic ones, and I always include a gauze pad. So you have a gauze pad, huge band-aids, medium band-aids, and little band-aids, just in case some small things happen on the trail, whether it's just normal first aid or whether you really got yourself injured. You're prepared for just about anything that isn't going to kill you. The last thing in here is, of course, a coffee filter. Now, one of the cool things about a coffee filter is that it can be used to filter stuff. Pretty much. It's nice because if you have very turbid water or really dirty stuff and you have a life straw or something like that, but you just don't want to get all that crap in there, you can actually filter your water through here first. One of the good things about using the tin is, as you can see, you can actually use this if you don't have anything else to drink out of. If you have clean enough water, you can pour it directly in here before you boil it, and then slowly pull this out, and that's going to leave you with your nice clean water, and you can throw this crap away. Coffee filters are really good for making tea as well, from pine needles and other things like that, and just kind of getting yourself some sustenance, or just cleaning up while you're out there on the trail. Alright guys, that's pretty much it. That's the Altoids Survival Tin. It has just about everything you need. It's good to have the peace of mind to know that I've at the very least got some first aid, and if not, I've also got some necessary information in case the cell phone is dead, or in case I get lost, stuck, or am happened upon by a random storm that I didn't know was going to be there. So check it out, do this yourself. This is a great thing to have as far as making sure that you're safe while you're out in the woods. It's a fun project for kids, and it's just nice to have pretty much all the way around. These are really popular, make fun gifts and all that jazz, so get on it. Comment below and let me know if there's anything you think I forgot, anything that you'd like to see differently, or something that you do differently in your kit as well. Don't forget while you're there to like the video, comment, and definitely subscribe. Subscribe for more awesomeness, more tips and tricks, and a couple of trail journals coming up soon. Again, this is Phil from Adventurous Life Outdoors. We'll see you on the trails.